Hello everyone, Bargastoppies here, and today I'm going to show you how to make custom bit chips easily and for free. If you go onto my Pinterest here, you can see there's already a few examples of custom bit chips. These are all free to download, free to use no matter who you are, and I'll be updating this as I go along. But to start with, you want to go to this, navigate to this Pinterest page, there will be a link down below, and download this template. Make your way over to Google and download the program Photoscape X. This is a free program. Some features are locked behind a paywall, but for what we're doing we won't need any of that. This will be important. Once you've got all that downloaded, you're going to want to look for the image you want to put on your bit chip. I'm just looking up Dragoon here. Now, you want to find one with the simplest background possible. That's going to make life a lot easier. Just Google that, you'll be able to find a few different images. If you can, stick to official stuff, as to be very blunt, stealing from other people just isn't fun, it isn't cool. Plus there are plenty of Takara and Hasbro images out there. Once you've got all that saved, make sure you've got them in the correct file. Now open Photoscape X. Photoscape X is what you want to do first of all is decide on what you want the inner part of this chip to be. So once you've decided on that color, go to the editor section, click new, and decide on your background. Also set the resolution to 400/400. I find that this is the best for working with. Now there's a few different options here. We can go solid color, which gives you all your regular, exactly what you need. If you want something a bit more fanciful, I recommend checking out the gradient settings. You can mess around with all sorts of things in here, change percentages. You can see a little preview down here where you get to change the scale. So sometimes click on this refractor gradient can give you a bit more impression. But since we're going for good old Dragoon here, he's traditionally on a yellow background, so I'm just going to go for a nice yellow. After you get that, you want to come up here to cut out and select the template. This is going to let you cut out sections based on color. So, and this is and tolerance up here is going to vary the intensity. We want to put that to 100 because we want essentially no white within here. Once you get all that done, just hover over, Control C, go to Editor, Control V, and just line this up. This program will give you some nice blue outlines when you reach the very edge. Then just click the empty space over here, Control C, that will select everything. Control V, we have that stuck in, we have this in the cutout section now. Then hit close, we don't want to save that, and click new. Now we want to select what the outside section of the bit chip will be. I'm going to go for something a bit more colourful here. Traditionally, Dragoon has a blue ring, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a gradient just to look a bit more fanciful. So you can see down here, like I said, you get a little preview down here. This is just something you're going to want to mess around with. You'll get used to eventually. Change the rotate. You've got reverse as well. So once you've got the colour you like, come back to cutout, hit that again, make sure you've got it 100%, then the same again, Control C, Control V. Now this program will show you these blue lines when you're perfectly in the center. You might want to reduce the size of this just a little bit. I find that this works best when you have roughly 1/4 to 1/5 of border on the outside, and make sure you've got it dead center like that. Now for the final part, we come back to cutout, select the, you can also copy paste and drop things here if that's quicker. Now drop the image you're going to use for the bit chip. Now one thing to be careful of, we put tolerance up really high, which means if we click this white section it may delete part of Dragoon's claws here because they're white, and you can see it's done that. Now what you can do is change the tolerance and mess around. The lower the tolerance, the more white, the more of the colour will be in the border. See here, that's far too high. Obviously down here though is too low, so just mess around a little and you'll eventually get, just pay attention though, because it's easy to overlook things. Like if you look at Dragoon's little claw down here, he actually loses a claw when I go a few over. You can use the zoom in feature down here to get a little closer, and you're going to want to delete these white areas on the inside as well, or it's going to look pretty strange. Again, just be aware that it can be a bit finicky, so just play around with the intensity. Try not to delete anything that you actually want to stay there. It may look a bit blurry when you zoom in, but you've got to remember these things are going on to a 20mm disc. It's not going to be particularly visible once they're correctly aligned. And just like that. So once you've got it all in a place you want, Control C, back up to Edit, Control V. And the advantage of this being on a higher be careful not to move that, but it's okay if you can. You can stretch it over and just get it wherever you want. Once you're happy with that, or the placement, I'm going to have him overlap a little bit, as is more traditional with bit chips of this era. Once you're happy, hit Save, Save As, go to the appropriate document you want to save it in, and make sure to name it. I'm just going to call this you've got your own little bit chip. When you use a circle cutter, you should be able to cut a ring around it. But if you would prefer something with more guidelines rather than, I prefer using this method where you've got a free ring to essentially, so you can use judgment when you're using a tool. But if you prefer it, you can use the other template, which was this one, if you want to make absolutely sure. For this, you essentially do the exact same thing. The only difference you're going to do is when it comes to doing the cutout, all you're going to do is cut out this middle section. Control C, Control V. Again, just to line it up, it'll be fine. Control C, Control V, the whole thing. And when it comes to the cutout section, keep it 100%, but just delete the white section. Keep the black lines, so that when you overlay it, you've got a better idea of where the cutouts will be. Although, I still advise you make it a tiny bit smaller than the whole thing, otherwise you risk when this prints, if the edge is too close when it prints out, it may well just miss those, but that'll give you a guide, and you do the exact same thing as before. And this way you have a better gauge on where that cut will be. Now with that said, when it comes to tools you want to use, now of course a simple pair of scissors will do, but if you've got the money, I recommend one of these DSPI-AE circle cutters. I've got one myself. They run a little bit of a gambit, it depends on where you get them, but they're excellent. They let you select exactly the sort of size you want. Once you've got your bit chip ready, I recommend using Microsoft Word for when you plan to print them off. There are other ways, but this is the method I found simplest. It will automatically open in Paint. Click Select All, Control C, Control V, wrap text, square. Now, Microsoft Office Word has this handy little feature, size and position, where you can actually change the size of a piece when it prints out. The recommended sizes for each piece being cut out will be listed below this video, but it helps with something like this to do a range. Now personally, I tend to do 20mm or 2cm a couple of times. Then reduce that to 1.8. And then finally reduce that last one to 1.7. Now what that's going to allow us to do is when these are printed off, you'll be able to judge after they're cut out which one will fit nicely onto your bit chip. It can be a bit difficult to predict, that's why I also recommend giving a little bit of a border, but that's a handy little tool, and you know what size these are printed off. Once you get used to this and once you get your measurements down, you'll be able to print them off in exactly the sizes you want them to be in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd very much appreciate a like. Thank you for watching, and have fun customizing. Bye.